Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we slice through stacks of complex research to bring you the essential insights you need, served up with, well, a little surprise and a lot of clarity. Today, we're embarking on one of the most fundamental missions possible, a deep dive into the very fabric of human existence, our emotions.
We've synthesized a huge body of modern psychological and neuroscientific research here. It spans the full spectrum of human feeling, from the survival instincts of fear and anger, all the way through to the complexities of love and contentment.
And our core mission today is to synthesize these findings and answer a deceptively simple question. Why do we feel?
And maybe more importantly, how can we leverage these feelings, even the painful ones, for meaningful personal growth?
I think we need to start by grounding this in a real moment shared in the source material. It's about a psychologist.
Right.
He was driving home after a really difficult day interviewing two individuals who had endured significant trauma, and he kept it all together, professional, calm, intellectual.
He'd done the task. He'd filed it away mentally as work done.
Exactly. But then he stopped, just waiting at a red light, a moment of forced inactivity.
And the feelings he had suppressed suddenly just overwhelmed him. The tears broke out unexpectedly and intensely.
It's an incredible insight.
His intellect had kept moving forward, but his emotional system demanded a stop, a necessary stop.
The red light literally forced a pause, and his feelings caught up. It shows that emotions aren't just, inconvenient baggage. They act as a vital navigation system.
They're the essential stop signs that tell us, hey, you've moved too fast, you haven't processed this yet.
As the sources point out, your intellect might be able to trick you, but your emotions, they rarely lie.
What's fascinating here is that this capacity for complex, messy, authentic feeling, it leads directly to the central thesis of this whole deep dive.
Which is?
That emotions are not a weakness. They are a defining evolutionary advantage.
And in the age of rapid technological evolution, that's a huge claim.
It is, because we need to redefine what makes us Homo sapiens. We used to rely on our rational thought, our IQ.
But that definition is becoming obsolete faster than we can adapt.
Precisely. We've seen this progression, right? An AI like Deep Blue beat the world chess champion. Now, high IQ tasks like complex medical diagnosis, they're often handled better by algorithms.
The rational calculation is no longer our unique selling point.
Not at all. So if machines can outthink us, what do humans do better?
We feel.
We feel. The uniquely human competence that sets us apart is the ability to experience complex emotions, build deep relationships, and, crucially, to exercise genuine moral judgment.
Compassion.
Compassion, exactly. The German term for empathy, Mitgefühl, literally means feeling with. Machines can mimic calculation, but they cannot truly feel with context. That's where our relevance lies.
Okay, so if that complex range of emotion is our advantage, let's dive into the emotion that often feels like the biggest disadvantage: fear.
Or, as the sources often call it, this deep existential anxiety, angst.
Right. And the research here takes us back to Professor Jerome Kagan's foundational work at Harvard on infant temperament.
Kagan really revolutionized our understanding by showing we are not born as emotional blank slates.
So what did he do?
He studied 4-month-old infants, exposing them to confusing stimuli, new sounds, bright colors, even a drop of lemon juice.
And he found a pattern.
A clear one. About 20% of the babies, like one he called Baby 19, reacted really strongly, crying, flailing, intensely reactive. He called them high reactives.
And he tracked them for a long time.
For nearly 2 decades. And by age 4, the high reactives were consistently found to be 4 times more cautious, more socially inhibited.
And when Baby 19 reached adulthood,
brain scans confirmed it. Her amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, was indeed hyperactive. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off if you just burn toast.
which sounds like a problem.
Oh.
But you're saying this is where the evolutionary advantage comes in.
It is. Because fear isn't inherently a monster to be defeated. It provides a massive amount of internal energy.
So how is that helpful?
Kagan observed that adults with this naturally anxious temperament were often highly cautious in beneficial ways. They had fewer legal conflicts. They were safer drivers.
So society needs that caution. They're the meticulous planners, the quality control experts, the ground control for a space mission.
Exactly. But you're right to ask, how do we distinguish between helpful caution and, paralyzing worry?
That's the key question.
And the difference often lies not in the feeling itself, but in the assessment of the feeling.
That brings us to Alison Brooks's incredibly practical research, the experiment where subjects had to sing.
Don't stop believing in front of an audience, a reliably anxiety-inducing situation.
So what was the setup?
Before performing, one group was told to say out loud, "I am anxious." The other group was instructed to say, "I am excited."
Okay.
And the physiological results were key. Heart rates, self-reported fear levels, they were identical between both groups. They felt the exact same arousal.
But the outcome was radically different.
Radically, the excited group performed demonstrably better. They sang with more confidence, were judged as more persuasive.
So they successfully reframed the physical signs, the churning stomach, the fast heartbeat, from a signal of failure into a signal of readiness.
They converted threat energy into motivational energy. Which brings us back to that timeless wisdom from Viktor Frankl.
Between stimulus and response lies a space.
In that space is our power to choose our response. We can't control the initial feeling, but we absolutely control the label we attach to it, and that label determines its effect.
Okay, building on that idea of channeling energy, let's move from fear to the next powerful, often suppressed emotion.
Anger.
Or what, as the sources call this driving force.
We're generally taught that anger is negative, right? Yet Gandhi, the icon of nonviolence, called anger good.
He had a really interesting perspective. He saw it like gasoline for a car. It drives you forward to a better place.
But in our modern society, we just suppress that fuel.
We do, often until it explodes.
Yeah.
We also simplify it, treating it like this raw, basic knee reflex. But the research, particularly from Lisa Feldman Barrett, it challenges that whole basic emotions model.
Completely. She emphasizes that anger manifests wildly differently across individuals and cultures. It's not some universal trigger response. It's constructed.
And this is where we can leverage its complexity, using a concept called emotional granularity.
Yes. Think of the color red. A person with low granularity just sees red. But an artist sees, I don't know, crimson, scarlet, vermilion.
So instead of just thinking, I'm angry, you try to find the specific, precise tone. Is it intense rage? Is it simmering resentment, frustration, contempt?
Precisely. And this practice of finding the right word, of naming the feeling, it leads to better social outcomes. Studies in schools showed that kids taught a richer vocabulary for their feelings improved both their academic performance and their social conduct.
So when you can name it, you gain power over it. You move from being in the anger to observing the anger.
That's the idea.
But what about in the heat of the moment? The impulse is often catharsis. Hit a punching bag, scream, get it out of your system.
And the sources confirm that is largely counterproductive. Catharsis feels good for a second, but it actually prolongs the state of high arousal. It reinforces the anger pathway in your brain.
So you need the opposite reaction. You need to activate a resource that pulls you back down.
Yes. That means engaging the rational planning parts of the brain, counting slowly. Thomas Jefferson advocated counting to 10 or just mindful, deep breathing. It creates that space.
And this applies directly to conflict resolution. I remember a Rice University finding.
Right, that people who adopt a firm, assertive negotiating stance did better than those who either exploded in rage or those who showed no emotion at all.
So anger, when it's directed and focused, is fuel. When it explodes, it's just destructive.
We've discussed the energies of fear and anger. Let's shift now to the emotion that requires the most sustained, long-term effort: love.
Okay, let's look at how love begins. We have to start with the Capilano Canyon Bridge experiment from 1974. It's classic stuff.
It is. Professors Dutton and Aaron wanted to study the link between physiological arousal and attraction.
So they had an attractive female researcher interview men crossing a really high, shaky suspension bridge.
And they compared that group to men interviewed by the same woman on a short, stable bridge nearby.
And the result is where it gets interesting. The men who crossed the terrifying swinging bridge were way more likely to call the researcher afterward.
The interpretation is simple: misattributed arousal. The intense adrenaline rush from the high-wire experience was misinterpreted by the men as sexual attraction.
So the initial butterflies are just well-packaged fear.
In a way, it suggests that moderate, exciting, slightly scary experiences are often what trigger those powerful early feelings of love.
Okay, but we can't constantly be dating across shaky suspension bridges. So how do we sustain love after the butterflies settle down?
The answer lies in the self-expansion model. This model is key because it shifts the focus from finding the right person to creating the right relationship.
Explain this self-expansion model. What exactly is expanding?
The model suggests that humans have this innate drive to increase our knowledge, our resources, our perspectives. When we fall in love, our self, our circle of experiences, overlaps with our partner's self.
Creating a shared we.
Exactly. And by incorporating their interests and perspectives, our own identity expands. Love literally makes us bigger.
Wow, that's powerful. It's the exact opposite of fear, which shrinks our focus down to just survival.
And the science backs this up. Students who were freshly in love reported increased self-efficacy and described themselves using a wider variety of words. They felt they could do more.
So for long-term couples, the relationship has to keep introducing novelty and mutual growth to keep that expansion happening.
Crucially, yes, one vital application is responding positively to a partner's bids.
What's a bid?
If your partner is fascinated by astrophysics and tries to share a new fact about black holes, your positive engagement with that is a bid. You're affirming their world, which is now part of your world.
And if you shut it down, you stagnate the expansion.
Precisely. And you also need to build emotional resilience. The sources emphasize the critical 5-to-1 ratio.
For every one negative interaction, you need 5 positive ones to keep the foundation strong.
And they highlight that celebrating a partner's success is arguably more valuable than just comforting them during a failure. Success affirmation boosts their expansion and reinforces that positive cycle.
We've covered the intense energies. Now let's shift to the quiet goal that defines a fulfilling life: contentment.
The German term for this is Zufriedenheit, which is distinct from fleeting happiness.
But before we get there, we have to talk about time. Why does time feel like it's accelerating as we age?
Well, we all know the ratio theory a year is a smaller percentage of your life, but the sources suggest a far more critical factor: novelty.
This is David Eagleman's work.
Exactly. His falling experiment, where subjects were dropped from a height, he found that time only seemed slower in retrospect. In a crisis, the brain records vast amounts of new, unexpected information. So the subjective experience of time slows down because the brain is just processing so much novelty.
Right.
As we age, if we stick to routine, our brain records less new information.
First kisses, first jobs, those are rich in novelties, so they feel long. Routine just compresses time.
It does, and this speaks directly to our modern action bias, this deep discomfort we have with stillness.
Right, there was that study where participants were left alone for just 15 minutes with only their thoughts.
And they preferred discomfort over reflection. A majority chose to give themselves a painful electric shock rather than just sit quietly.
Wow, we're just wired to seek external action over internal processing.
Which brings us to patience, or Langmit. We often treat patience as an inherent trait. You either have it or you don't. But the sources suggest it's entirely trainable.
How so?
Remember the famous marshmallow test? Later research showed a child's ability to delay gratification was highly influenced by their environment. Could they trust the promises from adults? Patience is a learned skill.
So what are the actionable strategies for training that patience muscle?
2 things stand out. First, cognitive reappraisal. This means reframing waiting time positively. A delayed train isn't wasted time, it's mandatory free time to let your mind wander.
Okay, and the second one is fascinating: connecting with your future self.
Yes. Studies used aging avatar technology, and when subjects saw a realistic, older version of themselves, they were suddenly more willing to save money now.
Why is that?
Because the future person didn't feel like a total stranger anymore. If you see your future self as a stranger, why would you invest in them? Patience requires compassion for the future you.
That leads perfectly to our final goal: contentment. Zufriedenheit. The sources make a critical distinction between this and happiness, or Glick.
Right. Happiness Gluck is often that short, intense high. It's the random reward, the rat pushing a lever for a quick dopamine hit. It's fleeting. It's the hedonic treadmill.
You run forever but never get anywhere. Contentment, then, is something quieter, deeper.
It's a sustained inner state of rest, defined by the frequency of small, positive emotions. It's accepting that life is good, not believing it has to be perfect. The key takeaway is frequency over intensity.
So, lots of small joys beat one huge temporary success.
Exactly. And to achieve this, we have to return to the beginning, accepting the full human spectrum of emotion. The sources warn against developing an emotions allergy, an allergy to any feeling that isn't positive.
Because if you spend all your energy suppressing small lows frustration, minor sadness, you use up the resilience you need when true tragedy strikes.
The path to contentment requires accepting that negative emotions are natural navigators. They're not there to harm you, they're there to help you protect yourself and drive change.
So what does this all mean? We started by questioning our core identity in this age of AI, and the conclusion is clear. Emotions aren't an obstacle to be suppressed. They are complex, powerful tools for survival, for connection, and for growth.
They are what makes us human. We have to surrender the race against artificial intelligence in pure calculation. Our unique relevance, now and in the future, lies in embracing the things machines absolutely cannot do.
Feeling complex emotions, building relationships based on moral context and trust.
And having compassion. We need to accept the full, magnificent, messy range of what it means to be human. As the humanist Carl Rogers put it, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change.
And if the greatest inhibitor to long-term contentment is seeing your future self as a stranger, what small, novel experience can you commit to this week that will make your future self grateful? Think about introducing a new path to work, trying a new cuisine, or just dedicating 10 minutes to quiet reflection. Use novelty to literally slow down your perception of time, and use that patience to invest in the person you are becoming.